I stood in the freezing rain outside San Francisco International Airport, watching my husband's black Tesla pull away. My 2 suitcases sat beside me in a growing puddle. In my hand, a crumpled $50 bill. "Call an Uber Black, Sarah. Don't embarrass me with
I've finished the
Uber
report,
X."
just checking
Those
over
were
the
Marcus's
details now.
last words before he drove off with his mother in the passenger seat, his sister and her boyfriend sprawled across the back. The same Tesla Model X I'd bought him last year. The same car he'd just told me was too full for his wife and her luggage. I wasn't coming home from vacation. I was returning from a 3-day tech conference in Austin, where I'd given a keynote on cloud architecture. But Marcus thought I'd been on a business trip with my boss, begging for my old job back after being laid off 6 months ago. The truth? I quit that job to go freelance. I now make $22,000 a month as a senior software engineer, working from our home office while Marcus thinks I'm desperately job hunting in my pajamas. I looked at the $50 bill again. The irony wasn't lost on me. This morning, I'd transferred $6,500 to cover his maxed-out credit cards. Again. But something shifted in me as I watched those red taillights disappear. Maybe it was the rain. Maybe it was 3 years of pretending to be less than I was.
I've finished the report, just
Maybe it was
checking
the
over
way
the
his mother
details
had looked
now.
at me through the window, that mixture of pity and contempt she'd perfected. Poor Sarah. Still no job? Marcus works so hard to support you. I pulled out my phone. Not to call an Uber. I called my bank first. "Hi, this is Sarah Martinez. I need to freeze all cards where I'm listed as the authorized user. Account numbers are..." I rattled off 6 different cards, all in Marcus's name, all paid by me for the last 3 years. The representative hesitated. "Ma'am, these accounts show significant recent activity. Are you sure?" "I'm very sure." "Freeze them immediately." Next call. My property manager. "David, it's Sarah. I need to initiate eviction proceedings on the Nob Hill penthouse." "Yes, the one where my mother-in-law lives. I'm the owner. Marcus is not on the lease. Give them 30 days notice." Third call. My divorce attorney. I'd already consulted with her 2 months ago, just in case. Today
finished
felt
the
like the
report,
right time
just
to
checking
stop
over the
planning
details
and
now.
start doing. "Jennifer, I'm ready to file." I finally called an Uber. But not to go home. I went to my mother's house in Daly City. The whole ride, my phone buzzed with notifications. Declined transactions, one after another. I watched them pile up with a strange sense of calm. Marcus at the Ritz Spa, $847. Declined Patricia Chen at Neiman Marcus, $2,340. Declined Marcus at Shell Station, $89. 00 declined. When I walked into my mom's house, soaked and dragging my suitcases, she took one look at my face and knew. "You finally did it." I nodded. My mother, Rosa Martinez, raised me alone after my father died when I was 12. She worked 2 jobs, refused to remarry, and taught me that my worth wasn't measured by any man's opinion of me. She'd met Marcus exactly 3 times before we got married. After
I've
the
finished
third
the
time,
report, just
she'd
checking
pulled me
over the
aside.
details now.
"Mija, that boy loves what you can do for him, not who you are." I'd been insulted then. Told her she didn't understand. Marcus was ambitious, driven, a rising star in medical device sales. We'd met at a networking event my company sponsored. He was charming, confident, had big dreams. I didn't realize until much later that all his dreams required my money to fund them. "Tell me everything," Mom said, wrapping a blanket around my shoulders. So I did. I told her about our first year of marriage, when Marcus's guaranteed promotion fell through. How he'd been so stressed, so embarrassed. How I'd quietly started paying more bills. Just temporarily, I thought. I told her about year 2, when his mother Patricia moved to San Francisco to be closer to family. How Marcus insisted we get her a nice place. How the $3,800 monthly rent came from my freelance income, while Patricia told everyone her successful
finished the
son was
report,
taking care
just
of
checking
her.
over the
I
details
told her
now.
about 6 months ago, when I'd transitioned to full-time freelancing. How I'd told Marcus I'd been laid off because I was tired of his resentment when I worked late. How he'd patted my hand and said, "Don't worry, babe. I make enough for both of us." His salary, $74,000 a year before taxes. My freelance income in the last 6 months, $132,000. I'd paid $38,400 in rent for Patricia's penthouse, $47,000 in credit card bills, Marcus's business expenses, $12,000 for his sister Emma's graphic design boot camp. She quit after 2 weeks. $18,000 for the Tesla's lease and insurance. $16,000 in various investments Marcus made that went nowhere. Plus our actual living expenses, which I covered entirely while depositing money into our joint account and letting Marcus think his paycheck sustained us.
I finished the report, just checking over the details now.
$400. My mother said quietly, doing the math. In 6 months, $365,000 in 3 years total, I added. I have spreadsheets. Of course, I had spreadsheets. I'm an engineer. My phone rang. Marcus. I didn't answer. It rang again. Again. Text messages started flooding in. Marcus. Sarah, what the fuck did you do to my cards, Marcus? The spa declined my card in front of everyone. Marcus. My mom is humiliated, Marcus. Call me now, Marcus. This isn't funny. Then his mother. Patricia. Young lady, I don't know what game you're playing, but you've embarrassed this family. Patricia. Marcus works himself to the bone for you. Patricia. And this is how you repay him? Then Emma, his sister. Emma. Really, Sarah? You're going to be petty like this? Emma. We had plans to go shopping.
Just checking over
Emma,
the details now.
So immature. I showed my mother the messages. She raised one eyebrow, a talent I'd never inherited. Are you going to respond? Eventually. I opened my laptop instead. Checked my client portal. 3 new project requests had come in during my flight. Total value, $45,000 for the next 2 months of work. I accepted all 3. My phone rang again. Marcus. I answered this time. What the hell, Sarah? His voice was shaking. I'd never heard him like this, pure panic with a tremor of something that might have been fear. Hello, Marcus. Don't hello Marcus's me. Do you know what you just did? My card was declined at the Ritz. In front of my mother. The spa manager had to come out. It was embarrassing, I suggested calmly. Like leaving your wife in the rain at the airport is embarrassing? Silence. Sarah, come on. That was we were full. I was going to send you money
I finished
for the
report,
Uber.
just checking over the details
$50 at
now.
me and told me not to embarrass you. I didn't mean look. Just unfreeze the cards. We'll talk about this when you get home. I'm not coming home. Another silence. Longer this time. What do you mean you're not coming home? Where are you? That's not your concern anymore. Sarah, you're being crazy right now. Just, do you know how much money I've given you in the last 3 years? Marcus, given me? You mean our money? What's mine is yours and... Senshalo wen uchen meyen. I heard him breathing. That's not your exaggerating. You were unemployed most of that time. I was never unemployed. I quit my job to go freelance. I make $22,000 a month, sometimes more. That's not your lying. You were home all day in your pajamas. Working. From home. While you told everyone you were supporting your unemployed wife. I don't believe you. Check our joint account. Every deposit marked consulting income? That was me.
I finished the report,
Every
just checking
one.
over the details
I heard
now.
clicking, he was checking his phone. The penthouse your mother lives in? I own it. My name is on the deed. Marcus, yours isn't even on the lease. You're lying. The Tesla you just drove away in? I make the lease payments. Every month. From my account. Sarah, stop. Those credit cards I just froze? I'm the primary account holder. You're just an authorized user. I've been paying the full balance every month. $47,000 in the last 6 months alone. That's impossible. Those are my cards. Read the fine print. More silence. So here's what's going to happen. I continued, my voice steady. I'm filing for divorce. Your mother has 30 days to vacate the penthouse. The Tesla lease is in my name. I'll be taking that back. And I've removed you from all accounts where I was providing you access to my money. You can't, Sarah. Please. Let's talk about this.
I finished the
You're upset
report,
about the airport
just checking
thing.
over the
I get
details
it.
now.
But I'm not upset, Marcus. I'm done. My mom has nowhere to go. She has you, her successful son who works himself to the bone. I'm sure your $74,000 salary will cover a nice apartment for her. How do you... I'm a software engineer, Marcus. I have access to information. I'm good at finding things out. I heard a crash in the background. Him throwing something. You bitch. You've been lying to me this whole time? I've been paying your bills this whole time. There's a difference. My company is about to close a huge deal. Your company laid off 40% of its staff 2 months ago. You're on thin ice. I have a friend in HR there. You've been spying on me? No, Marcus. I've been watching you lie to yourself. And to me. And to everyone else. Sarah, please. His voice cracked. Don't do this. I love you. 3 words I'd waited 3 years
I've finished
to hear
the report,
with any real
just
feeling
checking over
behind
the
them.
details now.
You love what I provide. That's not the same thing. I hung up. My mother handed me a cup of tea. We sat in silence for a while. How do you feel? She finally asked. Lighter. My phone buzzed again. This time, Emma. Emma. You know Marcus's company is struggling, right? You're really going to abandon him now? Emma. What kind of wife does this? I responded for the first time. The kind who paid $12,000 for a boot camp you quit after 2 weeks. You're welcome. Then Patricia. I will not be disrespected like this. Patricia. I raised my son to be a good provider. Patricia. You are ungrateful, Bine. Emmy. Patricia, I've paid $38,400 for your housing in the last 6 months. I am the most grateful person you know. Grateful I finally woke up. I blocked them both after that. Over the next few days, I stayed at my mother's house.
I've finished the report, just checking over the
during
details
the day.
now.
My clients didn't care where I was as long as I delivered. I delivered. Marcus tried everything. Phone calls, text messages, emails. He showed up at my mother's house twice. She answered the door both times and told him I wasn't available. The second time, she threatened to call the police. He left. His strategy evolved. First, anger. Then, bargaining. Then, love bombing. Long texts about our memories together. How I was the love of his life. How he'd been stressed and made mistakes. How his mother had been putting pressure on him. How he'd pay me back every penny. I didn't respond to any of it. What I did do, I changed all my passwords. I moved my money to a new bank account he didn't know about. I hired a forensic accountant to document every payment I'd made. I got copies of every credit card statement, every lease agreement, every transaction. Jennifer, my attorney, was impressed. Most people don't have documentation
I've finished
this
the report,
thorough.
just
I'm an
checking over the
engineer.
details now.
Documentation is what I do. The eviction notice was served. Patricia called me 18 times in one day. I didn't answer. She left voicemails ranging from tearful to threatening. I saved them all. Marcus's sister, Emma, had to get a job. She posted about it on Instagram with crying emojis. Can't believe I have to work retail because of family drama. Some people are so selfish. I didn't comment. 2 weeks after the airport, I met with Jennifer to review everything. This is going to be straightforward, she said. California is a community property state, but you have clear documentation that you were defrauded. He represented himself as the primary earner. You have texts, emails, and witnesses to prove it. We're going to get you out of this cleanly. What about the money I gave him? We can try to recover some of it, but honestly, it might cost you more in legal fees than it's worth. Think of it as an expensive lesson learned.
I've finished the report, just checking over the details now.
$365,000 for a lesson, but I was making good money now, and more importantly, I was free. I went back to our apartment one afternoon when I knew Marcus would be at work. I packed my things, my clothes, my books, my equipment. I left behind everything he'd ever given me. It wasn't much. On the kitchen counter, I left an envelope. Inside, the $50 bill from the airport and a note. This should be enough for your Uber. Don't spend it all in one place, Sarah. 3 weeks after the airport, the divorce was filed. 4 weeks after, Patricia moved out of the penthouse. Marcus had to rent her a studio apartment in Oakland. I heard through mutual friends that they were barely speaking to each other. 5 weeks after, Marcus's company announced more layoffs. He survived, but his commission structure changed. He'd be making significantly less. I didn't feel bad about any of it. I felt something else instead. Something I hadn't felt in 3 years.
I've finished the
like
report,
myself,
just checking
I
over the
started
details
accepting
now.
speaking engagements again. I raised my freelance rates. I joined a women in tech networking group and met incredible people who celebrated my success instead of feeling threatened by it. I went on dates. Nothing serious, but it was nice to sit across from someone who asked about my work and actually listened, who wasn't intimidated when I explained what I did, who didn't need me to play small so they could feel big. 2 months after the airport, I ran into Marcus at a coffee shop downtown. I almost didn't recognize him. He'd lost weight, and not in a good way. His suit was the same one he'd worn the day at the airport, now slightly rumpled. He was working on a laptop in the corner. When he saw me, his face went through several expressions at once. "Sarah," Marcus. Awkward silence. "You look good," he finally said. "Thank you. I mean it. You look happy." I was. I didn't say it out loud, but we both knew.
I've finished the
"How's
report,
your mom?"
just checking
I
over the
asked.
details now.
Not because I cared, but because it seemed like the polite thing to say. "She's adjusting. The studio in Oakland is smaller than she's used to. I'm sure she'll manage." More silence. "I was an idiot," he said quietly, "at the airport. Before that, all of it. I didn't disagree. I didn't realize what I had. What you were doing for us, for me, you didn't want to realize it. There's a difference." He looked down at his coffee. "I've been going to therapy, trying to figure out why I needed you to be less so I could feel like more." That was probably the most insightful thing I'd ever heard him say. "I'm glad you're getting help. Is there any chance?" "No," he nodded. He'd expected that. "I don't blame you. I wanted you to know I'm sorry. Really sorry. Not because I want you back, but because you deserved better. You deserve to be celebrated, not hidden." It was the first
I've finished
real
the report,
apology
just
he'd
checking
ever
over the
given me.
details now.
"Thank you for saying that." I left him there with his coffee and his laptop. I had a client meeting in 20 minutes, and I couldn't be late. As I walked out, I realized I didn't feel angry anymore. I didn't feel bitter. I just felt free. 3 months after the airport, the divorce was finalized. I kept my name. I'd never changed it to his anyway. I kept my business. I kept my freedom. I moved into a beautiful one-bedroom apartment in the Mission with huge windows and a small balcony where I could see the city lights at night. I set up my office exactly how I wanted it. I bought art that I loved. I adopted a cat named Bug because I'm a programmer, and it made me laugh. My mother came over for dinner once a week. We'd cook together, and she'd tell me stories about my father I'd never heard before, how he'd supported her dreams, how they'd been partners in every sense of the word. "He would have been proud of you," she said one night. "Not for the money or the success, though he would
I've
have
finished
loved
the
that
report,
too,
just checking
but
over
for
the
knowing your
details now.
worth, for not settling." I raised my wine glass. To not settling," she echoed. I never saw Marcus again after that day in the coffee shop. I heard through the grapevine that he moved to Sacramento for a new job, something about a fresh start. I hoped he found whatever he was looking for, just not with someone who had to make themselves smaller to fit into his vision of the world. 6 months after the airport, I got a contract with a major tech company. 6 figures for 1 year of consulting. The recruiter who'd been courting me for months finally broke through. "I knew you'd be perfect for this," she said. "Your reputation in the cloud architecture space is incredible." My reputation, my work, my name, all things that existed entirely independent of Marcus, of Patricia, of anyone who'd ever thought I was less than I was. I celebrated by taking my mother to the Ritz. The same Ritz where Marcus's card
I've
had been
finished the
declined
report,
that rainy
just checking over
afternoon.
the details
We
now.
had the most expensive champagne on the menu, and I tipped the waiter $100 just because I could. "Two expensive lessons," my mother said, raising her glass. "Two expensive lessons and new beginnings," I replied. The rain had finally stopped. San Francisco was beautiful in the sunshine, glittering and new and full of possibilities. I'd paid $365,000 and 3 years of my life to learn a simple truth. The only person who needed to believe in my worth was me. Everything else was just noise. And as I sat there with my mother, looking out over the city I loved, working in a field I'd dreamed about since I was a kid, free from the weight of pretending to be less than I was, I realized something else. I'd never been the one who was lost. I'd just been the one who'd been carrying someone else's dead weight for so long, I'd forgotten what it felt like to fly. But I remembered now, and I was never going back down.